said it should be a kind of 10-minute lighthearted speech, so I opened up to the book of Job, which is the story of the saintly man, those unbelievable trials and tribulations as part of a wager between God and Satan to see if he'll stay steadfast in his belief. Now, much of the book is devoted to a series of discussions between Job and his three friends who try to convince Job that he must have sinned, and Job says, I'm not having any of that, thank you very much. And then out of nowhere comes a fourth friend who is not mentioned when the three friends are introduced at the beginning of the book, nor is he admonished at the end when God admonishes the three friends for not helping Job. And I thought we'd take a look at the way he explains why he juts into a conversation he wasn't really invited to. I'll read the verses out for you. Up spoke Elihu, son of Berachel the Buzite, and he said, Young am I in years, whereas you are elderly. That's why I was too timid and afraid to express my discourse to you. I thought the many of days should speak, the many in years should make wisdom known. There is, however, a spirit within mortals. Shaddai's breath gives them understanding. It is not the many of years who get wisdom, nor the old who understand custom. That's why I say, listen to me. I too will express my discourse. Where do you think the turning point in these verses is? Elihu starts out by saying why he doesn't talk, and ends up by saying why he will, using the very same words. Where do you see the switch? And if anyone would like to share their thoughts now, that would be great. This is what happens in my 8th grade class after cocktails too, so, you know. Is there anyone, or? Okay. So one of the things we can do is actually take a look at the way the text itself tries to point out where the turning point is. Note the three that's, that is, there is, and that is. It works a little bit better in Hebrew because you can really hear it. The three words are al ken, achen, and lachen. The other thing to look is for words that you see twice, like the words many and wisdom, that frame the turning point. Elihu butts into the conversation because there is a spirit within mortals. Now, the biblical text isn't exactly enamored of Elihu. He is described as a Buzite from the family of Ram. Now, granted, these are both Israelite names that you find in other places in the Bible, but Buz is from the word to degrade, and Ram means high, indicating how Elihu looks down upon the others. He's also described as the son of Berachel, which literally means to bless God. Sounds good, except that for the first few chapters of the book of Job, the word berach, to bless, is used in place of the word to blaspheme. On the other hand, Job has no answer to Elihu, and what Elihu says anticipates themes from God's response. So the text is a little ambivalent about Elihu's interruption, and that's because interrupting and joining into a conversation is tough. You can come off as vain, hasty, uppity. It takes that quintessentially Jewish and Israeli trait of chutzpah. Teaching Jewish studies, which is what I do, takes a lot of chutzpah. We're really telling our students there's this huge conversation out there about your identity, and it's been going on in books and art and culture for thousands of years, and you can take part in it. But the problem is we don't always mean that, because do we really think that our 8th graders can take part in the same conversation that Hillel and Shammai and Maimonides and Jacqueline Kahanoff took part in? Problem is, 8th graders have excellent built-in lie detectors. If as teachers we don't have enough chutzpah to say, yes, you can take part in this conversation, and if 8th graders don't have enough chutzpah to say, I too will express my discourse, probably in different words, and actually mean it, then Jewish identity and this whole discussion about it is always going to remain something that someone else decided that they need to study, and they will forget it as soon as possible. Teachers and students need chutzpah to enter into the conversation, which involves truly believing that there is a spirit within mortals, no matter how hard it is to apply those words to 8th graders after gym class, and no matter how vain, rash, or unworthy they appear. That chutzpah is something that I learned from my training in the Revivim program at Hebrew University for training teachers in Jewish studies, and I believe it can be a model for teacher training programs everywhere. I teach Jewish studies, history, and Bible at the Israeli Arts and Science Academy here in Jerusalem, mostly in the middle school. I studied in the Revivim program, through which I received my bachelor's in Bible and Jewish studies, a master's in Jewish history, and 3 years of hands-on teaching experience before receiving my teaching certificate. The standards of academic excellence in Revivim and the encouragement to pursue my own academic studies gave me enough chutzpah to join into the academic conversation. I wrote my thesis about the medieval preparations for Shabbat in Ashkenaz in the Middle Ages, and I have published 2 articles, a third on its way, and I'm starting a doctorate in the fall. Now, my students roll their eyes at me, in my face. Thank you. They roll their eyes about my interest in these topics, but they know that it's a living, ongoing conversation and that I am actually a part of it. The years of practical experience I gained in Revivim program gave me the chutzpah as a newly certified teacher to join into pedagogical discussions with teachers far more experienced than I, which led to my appointment as the pedagogical coordinator at my school. As part of my role, I help other teachers develop their teaching strategies and help them implement certain pedagogies we've decided as a school to pursue. I have enough chutzpah to advise other teachers because of the third unique aspect of Revivim, which is that you study in a close-knit group. From my first steps in the world of education, I had a peer group for consultation and a fair amount of commiseration, and I still have it. I have alumni at school who are Revivim alumni at school who are my colleagues, and we have active social media groups where there's always a wonderful idea to be had, and that's because of the many, many vantage points of the Revivim alumni. As of the beginning of this year, there were close to 200 Revivim alumni teaching in over 100 public schools in Israel throughout the entire country. We can and do talk about education endlessly to the quiet despair of our non-teacher partners, and all I really do as a pedagogical coordinator is help other teachers find what they're looking for in that conversation. If we want Jewish identity to be an important and thoughtful part in the lives of future generations, teachers and students need to be full and real participants in that conversation as researchers, as educators, and as learners, the way that Revivim trained us. And that, as Elihu taught us in the book of Job, takes a little bit of chutzpah. Thank you.